Elias Thorne. He was a picture of adolescent and nude, sprawled across my rug, his gaze sweeping the room as if cataloging its deficiencies. He'd agreed to the sleepover because I was the new kid at Blackwood Ridge High, and he was curious about my house, hoping to glean some insight into me. But I could see the flicker of regret in his eyes already. "Thought you said you had a fizz," Elias mumbled, his eyes darting towards corners as if expecting a console to materialize from shadow. "I've been upstairs since dinner." We toured my bedroom, a space deliberately curated to appear normal, and chatted aimlessly. Watched some mindless show on the screen. Things were passable at first, but as the last flush of daylight fell from the sky and a deeper gloom settled outside, I felt his interest waning like a dying ember. That's when the suggestion formed on my tongue, a subtle, chilling invitation. "Now I don't," I admitted, a smile touching my lips. "Sorry, still up for trying a different game though. Telling stories. You know, the scary kind. Is that little kid stuff?" Elias glanced at the watch on his wrist. I tracked his gaze. His watch was the first thing that drew me to him. He sat 2 desks ahead of me in English class, and I noticed it when a stray ray of sunlight glinted off its face. A sharp, alluring flash that snagged my attention. It was one of those chunky digital things most kids wore. His was sleek, metal, intricate and sophisticated. More at all. It was one of the reasons it singled Elias out. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice light. "Can I try your watch on?" Elias looked up, a frown creasing his brow. "What? Your watch? Can I just see it? It's really cool." He stared at me for a beat longer than comfortable. "Sorry, I don't let anyone try my watch on. My dad says I'm not allowed." He glanced around the room again, his eyes flickering from the closed door to the darkening window pane. He sighed. "Fine, let's play the stump game then. What do I have to do?" Ignoring the boredom etched on his face, I broadened my smile. "It's simple. We just take turns. Tell the scariest story you can possibly think of. Whoever's is the scariest wins." Elias rolled his eyes. "I don't know any scary stories. Besides, I think I might just crash soon. I'm pretty tired." "Oh, come on," I cajoled. "Just one each. You must know one. Everyone does. Plus, I know loads of good ones." I watched his face carefully for a reaction, letting a hint of challenge creep into my tone. Unless you're one of those kids that frightens easily, that is. Then, I guess you might not like the game." It was a gamble, but Elias took the bait. His jaw tightened. "I'm not scared of anything. I've watched horror films with my older brother that are rated 18. We even found one online that got banned, and I watched the whole thing." I didn't reply, just held his gaze and smiled. After a tense few seconds, he let out another weary sigh. "Fine. Let's play your stupid game. But after you're done failing to spook me, that's it. I'm going to bed." Elias went first. His story wasn't terrible, to be fair. He said his uncle told him it years ago. It was the standard fare. 2 siblings. One dies tragically at car, the surviving one is twisted by grief, or something darker, pockets money meant for groceries, liver, he said, digs up the deceased brother, takes the organ, and the dead sibling rises seeking vengeance. A classic. Nothing I hadn't heard or experienced before. I played along though, wiping my eyes, gasped, even managed a small shiver at the right moments. Elias got surprisingly into it. He gestured wildly with his hands, his watch flashing in the soft glow of my bedside lamp. His blonde hair flopped across his forehead. He was so engrossed. He did seem to notice how the atmosphere in the room had deepened. He finished, leaning back with a grin. "Ha, thought you were gonna start crying at one point," he growled. "You might as well give up now anyway. I told you I'm not scared of anything." I looked across at him. The house had settled into a profound silence hours ago. When would first come upstairs, there had been faint sounds drifting from below, the murmur of the television, the distant clatter of dishes being put away. Now only the house's own quiet breath remained. Outside the window, tree branches clawed at the glass, rustling in the wind like dry bones. The occasional car passed on the road below, a brief intrusion before silence reclaimed everything. I met Elias' gaze, my smile serene. "So, you are not scared of anything at all?" I prompted. "No. Nothing. Not even stories that are true." Elias let out a sharp, dismissive bark of laughter. "Nice try. Just hurry up and get it over with, will you? And already bored." "Alright, fine." I settled back against my pillows, the smile never leaving my face. "My story is about a family," I began, my voice low, conversational. "A family that looks perfectly ordinary on the outside, but beneath the surface, they're not ordinary at all." Elias rolled his eyes again. Annoyance was starting to prickle, but I ignored it, continuing as if I had noticed. "This family moves around a lot. They never stay in one place for too long. They can't, you see. A family's good at blending in. They're masters of disguise, skilled at concealing their true nature. But they can't afford risks. If they stayed in one town for more than, say, a week, they might be discovered. Someone might figure out what they are." "Yeah, what are they then?" Elias interrupted, his voice laced with impatience. I wanted to tell him to be quiet, to just listen, but I bit back the urge. Instead, I just grinned. "A family are monsters," I said simply. "Follow them. They travel from town to town, and they leave a trail of empty spaces wherever they go." I paused, waiting for another interruption, but he only stared back, his earlier boredom giving way to a dull, blank apprehension. "A family, they have a specific way of doing things," I continued, my voice dropping slightly. "When they arrive in a new area, they find a house, not necessarily an abandoned one, just one where the owners are away for a while. On holiday, maybe. Empty for a week or two. The family doesn't need long. Couple of weeks is usually plenty. So they get into the house, and they set the trap. They use their own key for it." My eyes held his. "They send him out to make friends in the neighborhood, and at the park, maybe, or enrolling him in the local school under a name that isn't his. Tell him to get to know the other kids." The wind outside moaned, a low, mournful sound. The family is hungry by this point. Deeply, bone-achingly hungry. But they don't rush. They've learned patience. I paused, taking a slow breath. This was a story I'd recounted many times, but it grew richer, more satisfying, with each telling. The key was patience. You had to savor it. I opened the bedroom window earlier, and a chill draft now sneaked into the room, stirring the curtains behind Elias. The branches outside shook, their leaves like frantic whispers. Elias watched me, silent now, his fidgeting still. I had his attention. "The parents, they don't have to wait long," I continued. "They never do. They've trained the child well, you see. He's not just a victim in all this. He may be young, but he understands the game. Once the family has been in the area for a few days, maybe a week at most, the kid, he makes his choice. He picks a new friend, someone to invite back to the temporary house. My gaze dropped to Ilya's wrist, to the watch. The parents, they give him an incentive too. He's still too young to share their particular tastes. That comes later, they say. But he still gets something out of it. A prize. What does he get? Ilya stammered, his eyes fixed on mine, his knees starting to tremble slightly. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Somewhere in the house below, a door slammed shut. A sharp, final sound that echoed up the stairs and hung in the air between us. Ilya's eyes darted towards my bedroom door, then snapped back to my face, wide with sudden, stark terror. I smiled again, slow and deliberate. He gets the other kids' stuff, I replied softly, my gaze lingering on the watch. Whoever he picks, he gets to keep all their belongings, after his parents are finished with them. Elias kept his eyes locked on mine, but I could see the frantic questions forming behind them. Questions he was now too afraid to voice. The wind outside howled, a mournful echo to the silence in the room. My smile widened, just a fraction. The night had just begun.